Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Ken Dioria and Laurie Card with the Hartford.
Hi, thank you. Thank you. I'm Ken Dioria, I'm with the Hartford, and I manage the Application Lifecycle Management Organization, which is a centrally managed organization that handles all of our CI/CD platform, as well as our DevOps framework and all of the integration. Laurie Card, because we always want validation of what we do, is one of my customers. She's a tech lead in the application area that utilizes these services. And I can tell you how great it is, but without proof of the pudding, it's just my word against everybody else's. So what I want to do is start with the Hartford. 200 years. We've been around for 200 years, and one of our prime focuses has always been customer focus. So we're very, very into customer focus. And the reason I raise that is when you see some of the decisions we made and how we're moving forward, those were based on that premise, security and safety of our customers. Trust is what an insurance company needs to do, and that's what we manage. Innovation. There's a picture of a fire engineer. We started out as a fire insurance company. Show you innovation. In the 1940s, we started a program called Junior Fire Chief. In the last 70 years, we've actually deputized 110 million children by teaching them fire safety through that program. And we try to do that in schools, and anybody can get a kit, which is very impressive. So that's what we think about. So we were innovating way back then before technology. Now, we're into all of the basic technology bases. You know, we've got robotics. We're using drones in our insurance claims process. We're doing IoT. Where does that fit? You know, we talked about how many lines of code are in a Chevy today. Think of how many lines of code in that Chevy are open source and you don't control. And think who owns the liability of those. That's an insurance issue we have to think about. And quick question. It takes 100 million lines of code to go down 90. How many lines of code do you think it took Apollo 11 to get to the moon and back? Any guesses? 145,000. So, you know, we've come a long way. So everybody's seen this picture. I mean, everybody has a picture similar to this. You know, when we started our DevOps journey, you know, we built a framework that starts with requirements management up at the beginning, goes all the way to service management at the end. It's an end-to-end process. Part of our process is obviously the automation and the CI/CD platform. Some of the integral parts of that are not just the CI component, but continuous quality. And I'll talk a little bit about continuous quality as we get a little deeper into this. We do continuous releases, continuous deployment. We are now in the process of developing release orchestration. And when we talk about a release, it's not that weekend. You know, the weekends where we come in at 6 in the morning and hopefully get out while the sun's still shining. We really talk about the end-to-end, starting of the development through the promotion to integrated environments and QA and performance testing into prod. And that's what we're trying to build in our release orchestration. Continuous configuration. What we've done over the last couple of years is we've actually gone into the containerized approach. We actually use containers to do our Jenkins build agents. It's one of the ways that we've, although we don't have core, we've tried to create it on our own until we can get to core in order to provide better capabilities to our customers. So what are our guiding principles? The framework is immutable. Tools are not. And we could talk about that because we've gone through, as John has, multiple generations of evolution here. You know, actually our journey is pretty much the same, except his is much more colorful and articulate than ours. You won't need your cameras to take any pictures of this presentation, believe me. We're an insurance company, auditability, right? We have to be auditable, traceability. Speed without quality is unsustainable. Technical debt is one of the greatest risks we have. You know, we have applications at the Hartford that they may have been around when our president took that sleigh ride in 1835. I'm not sure because they were pretty old. And I think we heard this before. The only reason we're doing this is for customer value. If it doesn't give value to the customer, it's just a fun exercise and we might as well just go play a video game somewhere. Automation, that's our enabler. We do a lot of automation. We also do a lot of we're driving towards consistency. To give you an idea where we came from, consistency has become very important to us, and that's why we've centralized our process. Some years back, we were almost treated as two separate companies. We had a property casualty and a life company. And to give you an idea how consistent we were, we used Lotus Notes for email in one and Outlook in the other one. So believe us, we learned the value of consistency. And as John mentioned, developer engagement. Without the developers, you're building a nice platform that no one's going to use. They have to want to use it, they have to feel empowered to use it, and they have to see value in it. Developers want to develop code. They want to do innovative stuff. They don't want to hit a black box. That's not challenging for them. So as I talked about our framework, we're on our third generation. Right? We actually started with a homegrown process. We then went to a very centralized tool that was a CI/CD tool. It actually incorporated our software repository in it, but it required a centralized team to do all of the configuration. So what we learned was we really needed something a little more engaging to the development community. We're all in the same boat. There is a lack of developers in this country. And we're all competing for that same small pool. We have to attract those developers. We have to make them want to come to a company, especially when they look at a 200-year-old insurance company. Is it really going to be fun there? Well, yes, it is, because that's what we're doing. We're developing platforms to really drive automation, CI/CD, interesting aspects of it, utilizing robotics, because we want to draw them in to look at this is a destination employment. And that's one of the reasons why we went to a best-of-breed tool approach. How do you select those vendors? One of the key things is whatever vendors you pick, you really have to be able to integrate. So we took a lot of different tools, and we had to make sure that they were all integratable. But the other part is you're not really looking for a vendor, you're looking for a partner. So make sure as you work to find your tools, obviously we're a CloudBees user, we're partners. They have our well-being in mind. We work together with them. We're part of the Customer Advisory Council. We provide them with insight. They provide us with direction as well. So we heard a lot of directions that they're heading in today. It's really exciting where they're going. As I said, audibility. And we saw a slide very similar to this morning. I mean, I'm between you and lunch and repeating things, so I'm sure I'm getting a lot of attention right now. But it really is. We have a process that we can trace every piece of code, every piece of source code, to its executable, to where it's deployed. And the transparency of the payload, this is critical. You have to know what's in your payloads. What is in that executable code? A couple of years ago, when Equifax had their issue, needless to say, I got a call, are we using struts? We were able to identify through our process that we were not using struts, and we could document that we were not. So whenever a vulnerability comes out in today's world, we can actually show if we are using it, where we're using it, what application is using it, and then put a plan in place to remediate it. One of the things about security to think about, especially in the open source world, we've gone from the fact of used to take about 45 days for a vulnerability to be identified before it was actually breached. It's less than 2 days now. So you have to know what's out there, you have to know your risk, and you have to remediate it quickly. That's the other value of these type of platforms and automation. You have to be able to turn around changes very quickly. And the pipeline management. Now, we took a different approach. We took a centralized approach to developing our process and our pipeline, and our customers utilized that. We, in some of our journey, did the same thing. We gave flexibility through a Jenkins file, and we found some developers are very creative. We found them renaming external jar files to text files, hiding them in source code repository, renaming them during the build process. So speed without quality is unsustainable. Again, technical debt. You have to reduce your technical debt, because as you increase technical debt, you can't produce features. And so that's why all of our processes have integrated quality testing, vulnerability testing. Where we have continuous testing from the IDE through the build, through the deploy. And I talk about customer value, because that's really what it's all about. My business partners are my underwriters, my claim organizations, and I have to provide them with results, right? They have new features that they need to get out there. My consumers, our insureds, our policyholders, our promise to them is security and safety, and that's really what we provide to them. We have, in our application, vulnerability gating. We do not allow vulnerabilities to be exposed to external customers because we don't want to put them at risk. The development community, and here's where I'm going to ask Laurie to come up because she's going to talk about what the development community gets out of our customer and development engagement.
Thanks, Ken.
Yep.
Is this working? Okay. Ooh, now it's working. Let's see. Nope. Am I going the wrong way? All right. So you heard Ken talk a little bit. Oh, let me start with who I am. So Laurie Card, I've been at the Hartford for 17 years. I've worn a lot of different hats in my time at the Hartford. I think if you look on your app, it says I'm a performance engineer, which was one of the hats that I wore for 5 or 6 years. And I'm going to get to talk about some performance stuff, which I'm really excited about on the next slide. But the hat that I wear now is I'm a tech lead for an application that we use at the Hartford, which is a vendor application that we've made slight modifications to. And we are a team of 1.5 developers and myself supporting 5,000 to 6,000 end users. So when we first got told, hey, we're going on this DevOps journey, we're going to start to move towards continuous integration, continuous development, I thought, oh crap, this is going to slow me down. I'm going to have to learn some new tools. And I release every month, and there's only 1.5 of us. How are we going to do that? So the thing that was really beneficial to me was Ken's team. So before they came out and said, we're all moving this way, the infrastructure was set up, the tools were chosen, the analysis of deciding what those tools were was done, so that when it came time for us to move, a lot of the work was done. So we did a release in May in our old way with all of our manual deployment steps to a configured deployment in June. And that was seamless to us and went off without a hitch. So that was really great. Developers don't want to, I didn't want to spend a ton of time learning new tools and new process. So having that all laid out for me ahead of time was very beneficial. A lot of teams have experienced some speed with the move, but we and my team has mostly been consistency. So at the Hartford, not everybody can do a production deploy. So as a developer, I can deploy to integration, I can deploy to QA, I cannot deploy to production. So I have to rely on an infrastructure team to do those deploys for me. Well, my deploy is a little complex, and there's quite a few different steps in that process, and I was relying on a different team to do that for me. So by moving to a deploy this way, they just have to kick off the script that already does exactly what we need it to do. So now I have consistency in my deploys instead of relying on another area that potentially may miss one of the key components in my unique deploy. The other thing that we're starting to expand on more is our automated testing. So with all of our deploys today, you deploy to dev, you deploy to integration, you deploy to QA, we do smoke tests right off the get-go, just to ensure core functionality is there. We've been building our regression scripts, so some key functionality we want to make sure that we're not breaking. There's a few things in the app that I support specifically that's temperamental. So when we're working on that that section of the code, we want to make sure that we didn't break any of the existing functionality. So we've written some of the scripts to make that happen, and we're in the process of getting those to be deployed, to be executed right as part of the deploy into the different environments. We're at different levels of our journey at the Hartford. So I'm a fairly small team, you'd say, right? 1.5 developers or a small team. There's a lot of other bigger teams, and they're at different levels of adoption. So a lot of the teams do auto builds right when they check in their code. And that's especially valuable when you have a team of 25 developers and they're constantly putting stuff in to the integration environment. Those auto builds are great. Code quality scans and vulnerability scans are done on most applications across the organization. And as Ken had talked about working for an insurance company, we're very regulated. So making sure that we're going through that stuff and ensuring quality is very important. So this is the stuff that I'm most excited about, things that we're really starting to do at the Hartford now. So we're looking at moving performance testing as far left as we can. And so we're a company that has probably, I would guess, about 400 different applications. And some of them are legacy applications that have been around for a long time. And so we're working on, first with our customer-facing applications, looking at saying, okay, let's get our development team working with our development teams. Let's identify what some of those steel threads are for that application, and let's get those initiated in the deploy. So as soon as you deploy, you're working on those. But more importantly, let's do our load testing. So as a performance engineer for a lot of years, I had to wait to do any of my load testing until development was done. Development's done, it's moved to QA. QA testing has been in there for whatever window they have to do their QA testing, and now it's time for performance testing. Oh wait, development took longer than we thought. QA took longer than we thought, so now your performance testing window is so narrowed. What happens if you find a performance issue? You're in trouble, because now you don't have time to go back and fix that code. So we have quite a few applications now that are doing load testing at the lower environments, and it's scaled appropriately for that environment. This isn't something that developers are doing on their own. This is a highly collaborative effort between them and the performance engineers. But being able to do that is significantly helping quite a few of our applications. The performance team helps set those benchmarks. They have a set standard dashboards and reports that we look at for all of those applications to make sure that it's meeting those benchmarks. And then they have the expertise, the engineers, of looking at your different performance tool and being able to evaluate, where are you hitting high CPU? Where is the problem with this? There's some high response time. Where in the process is that coming from? So they can kind of get in and take a deeper dive in the tool to be able to identify sort of where your performance issue is. But moving that as far left as we can is so much better in the process. What they're looking at doing this year is blocking deployments. So if you fail your load test for any one of these reasons, there's a lot of exceptions, or your database response time is heavy, we're not even going to let you deploy to prod. It's blocked. Right now, it's just a report that they run that they evaluate and then discuss. But they're looking at blocking that right away, and also being able to roll it back, which is going to be key, right? If you found a problem late, to be able to roll that back quickly is going to be huge. And one of the things, which I'd love to see how they're going to be able to do this, but this is on the timeline for this year as well, is to auto-scale your application based on your performance issues. So we've got a project that's underway right now where that's one of the things that they're looking at, and they're hoping to be able to get that project going with the auto-scale before the year's out. So we're doing some pretty exciting stuff for an insurance company, because a lot of kids don't want to go work at an insurance company and code there, but we're doing some pretty great things, and I really like what we're doing from the performance perspective. Sooner you can find a problem, the less likely you are to push that out to your customers, and the better customer experience you're going to have.